But if you go back to just this, then there's no need for anything at this point other than a vote on whether the board agrees to accept this or not.
Okay, I still dispute that, but I'm perfectly willing to go along with Ms. Cooksey. And that should make everybody happy, right?
So,
Mrs. Mayo?
since it sounds like my motion, the amendment motion, is complicating issues, I will withdraw it, but under protest. A second.
Is there a second to withdraw that motion that Ms. Dindler seconded? All right.
I'm sorry, did you withdraw your amendment or your substitute motion?
My amendment.
All right, we are back to the substitute motion. And that motion is that I move, and I will reread it, and we will verify that what we're doing, because it's fairly lengthy. So scratch all the rest of that. Are you keeping up, Ms. Amenta?
Oh,
okay, I will go back to it, and thank you all for coming tonight. I know we're wildly entertaining here. We're about to hopefully get to the conclusion here. I move that the Board of Education, 1, write letters to citizens LAC and Minion, A, denying the cure and correct demands of LAC's December 10th complaint and Minion's December 21st complaint, and further, B, thank citizens LAC and Minion for their steadfast commitment to the Brown Act and oversight of public agencies throughout Contra Costa County, and further, C, sign these letters in a public session on January 28th, 2013, and further, number 2, that the Board of Education participate in trainings on the Brown Act and on administrator contracts, including but not limited to legal requirements, model language, and Brown Act procedures related thereto. Now, Ms. Cooksey, this is a substitute motion, and a substitute motion, simply you accept that as the substitute motion. That's what we're back to. We accept that as a substitute motion, and that was, I think, whatever you read on page 154, paragraph 4 or something you had.
That is actually the motion that was referred to on page 60 that now must be acted upon before we can act on your motion.
Right, but we first have to vote to accept it as a substitute motion. It's a simple vote. And go back in and look at that piece.
I am looking at that piece, and you don't have to vote to accept it as a substitute. You merely have to take action on it.
Okay, and I will dispute that. However, well, either way, we're going to end up taking a vote here. So I would dispute that because I don't believe that's how Robert's Rules of Order works. So we'll note that here, okay? Nothing personal. It's all, you know. Okay, here we go. We will take, that has been moved by Mrs. Mayo and seconded by Mrs. Dindler. So is everybody clear on this, the motion and what we're voting on? Okay.
Are we voting on consideration, or are we voting on the substitute motion?
We're voting on the substitute motion because that's what Ms. Cooksey said, and I dispute that, but we will follow that procedure, so we want it noted that I just don't want to skip a step in what I know to be Robert's rules, and if we are, then we have an issue. Okay? Is that confusing? Please, speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay. Absent of any sort of electronic voting here, we're going to have to do voice voting. Okay? So we will start with Mrs. Mayo.
Aye.
Mrs. Oakes.
No.
Mr. Lawrence.
No.
Mrs. Dindler.
Aye.
And Ms. Hanson, no. Motion fails 2-3. Ms. Ament, are you doing motions and doing the second in lieu of Ms. Joseph?
I'm typing it in, but I don't have ESD where I can go.
Okay. I didn't, okay, well, we have it recorded and we have this in writing, okay.
Madam President, at this time I ask for a substitute motion.
Now at this point, Ms. Cooksey,
That's in order because he can
Ms.
second.
Cooksey, excuse me, Mrs. Mayo.
Now we're back to the main motion on the floor, which was your motion. And anybody can enter in another motion before your motion, and so that would be in order at this time.
Okay, so we're gonna allow Mr. Lawrence to submit a substitute motion.
I move that the Board of Education, 1, finds the Brown Act allegations of Ms. Minion and Ms. Lack are without sufficient merit. 2, the Board requires the contract extensions are brought to the Board after they have been reviewed and prepared with consultation from independent counsel, allow for public comment, and are then voted on by the Board. I wrote it out.
Thank you.
Okay, so in that, I'm sorry, let me see that again.
Good luck translating my
Okay.
scribble, but
And just, we had a motion, did we have a second?
I second for discussion.
Okay, Mr. Lawrence moved and Ms. Oaks seconds for discussion. And, Mr. Lawrence, did you want to speak to that first? You may.
I do, I'll return to the point of, we have to do the right thing, but I do not feel that we can use, if the Brown Act allegations are without merit, that we can still use those as a cover to correct something. I believe that we do need to correct these contracts, but I also find that there is not a violation of the Brown Act. And so we cannot, just because we want to do better, use the Brown Act to those ends. And so that's why I proposed the motion.
Would you repeat your motion, please? Slowly.
I move that the Board of Education finds the Brown Act allegations of Ms. Minion and Ms. Lack are without sufficient merit. That was 1. Second, the board requires the contract extensions of the 5 top administrators, of the 5 administrators, are brought to the board after they have been reviewed and prepared with consultation from independent counsel, are allow for public comment, and are then voted upon by the board.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Now, what I want to make sure we clarify here is in that motion, it is, there's a denial to cure and correct. Ms. Brown?
Yes.
There is a denial in there to cure and correct, and I think it's important because you didn't say, and it's okay, you don't have to say it that way, but I want to just verify because you're denying the request to cure and correct in that motion, so I want to just verify that that's what is happening, okay, in that motion. So that's just an important distinction. Okay, any other discussion here?
Can I just clarify, are you saying bring back, even in your earlier statement, you said that the board on April 23rd did extend the contracts. Now you're saying bring back to vote on the extensions again, or?
No, what I'm saying is that the substantive act took place on April 23rd. However, the contracts themselves, my contention is that I've never seen, they were not presented to the public. They do not have signatures or counter signatures and were not dated. There's an ability, based on the advice that of my research as well as my research, that we have the ability to polish or to clean up the contracts. It is not a vote on whether or not we have granted contract extensions, but the documents themselves that support these contract extensions.
And I'm wondering if the President would allow Mr. Lawrence to add a clarifying clause in there, because I don't have the motion in front of me, that the council would review the contracts as adopted on April 23rd, 2012.
Well, it's actually Mr. Lawrence's motion, so
I know.
he needs to determine what he wants to make, and that's the motion he's made. So you don't just, you can't suggest he add a clause into his motion. It's his motion, and he determines what that might be. Well,